even liberals think that the deficit is an important thing for this country to deal with. However, in the past, you have said that you wanted no increase in revenues, in taxes.
Tax rates, yeah.
And, right, well, and in tax rates, fine. Again, if we invoke Warren Buffett, I think that many in this room would have a hard time not agreeing with increasing tax rates on people with incomes over $1 million a year, because frankly, they are paying much, much lower rates than they have historically. And I would ask everybody to give the congressman respect, not interrupt him, okay? So that you can ask questions, and not heckle the people asking questions. Thank you. Please. Anyway, so you just a minute ago said that you would like to eliminate ethanol taxes, some other subsidies and things like that. There are loopholes within the tax law. Grover Norquist, who is the creator of this no tax pledge that many in your party have signed, used that as an increase in tax. Do you not agree that in order to lower the deficit, there has to be increase in revenue to the federal government, and that wishing it on future growth would not be the only way?
I guess I'd answer it this way. I think tax increases, particularly at this time in this state of the economy, would be destructive of the job-creating capacity of this nation. Secondly, I happen to agree with the conclusions reached by the Joint Economic Committee Republican staff that in reviewing the manner in which other countries attempted to get out of the problems of fiscal irresponsibility, those that did it by way of spending reductions were successful, and those that tried to do it by way of tax increases were not successful. And to the extent that the mix moved from one polar to the other, you saw that happen. To the extent that it was less spending cuts than tax revenues, you saw less success. To the extent it was more spending cuts than tax revenue increases, you saw greater success. If you like it, I'd be happy to give that study to you. So I don't think that it solves the problem. One of the reasons you would probably ask is, why is the president, when he talks about the rich, defined it in terms of his programs that people who make over $200,000 and people, couples who make over $250,000? That's because if you look at the numbers, the only way you can reach numbers that have a significance in terms of budget deficits is if you start there. If you start with the ultra rich and you tax them 100%, frankly, you don't get very much. So when you define that as a solution to the problem, when you analyze it, you come to a different conclusion. Now that's my judgment looking at it. That's what I have concluded. And if you want to talk about increase in taxes, we already have built in a huge number of increase in taxes as a result of the passage of the health care bill last year. And I just want to be accurate on this so I don't make a mistake. According to the Ways and Means Committee, that health care bill that we passed includes 21 specific tax increases, totaling $569 billion over 10 years. And 12 out of the 21 increased taxes on people below $200,000. So, I mean, I'm very careful when I look at these issues with respect to tax. For instance, in the health care bill, one of the new taxes is, and I forget whether it's the 2.9 or the 3.7% tax, but it's one of those two, a new tax on anybody, any company, anybody who produces or sells health equipment in the United States. Now, health equipment includes health instruments such as an artificial knee or an artificial hip or a wheelchair. How does that help reduce the cost of health care. And why would we increase the tax on companies that are producing health devices, medical devices or medical equipment, but not on other corporations? We have a company in Rancho Cordova called Volcano. It has over 600 employees. Well, all I can tell you is I went to the companies that produce it. I got a company in my district called Volcano, 600 employees who happen to manufacture arterial catheters. They are competitors in the worldwide market. There's only 2 competitors that they have, essentially. And those are manufacturing jobs in America. And they told me that will specifically hurt them. They probably will not lay off people, but they won't increase employment the way they thought they could. No, what he said was that they will make a fortune because under the new health care bill, everybody will be able to have this stuff and they'll make more products. And therefore, I'm just telling you what they said. They view it very, very differently. So the other thing is unearned income was included with a new tax under the health care bill. And they're a publicly held corporation. They need to attract people to buy stock so that they can have more capital for research and development. That has a specifically negative impact on their ability to do that. So in both cases, in my judgment, talking with them, it will make it more difficult for them to compete worldwide and make it more difficult for them to create jobs here in this area, as well as, I think they have another plant. Well, no, I think this is the only manufacturing plant that they have in the United States. Way in the back. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you. I'm a teacher here in this community, and I'm a homeowner also. And one of my big concerns is that I can't take advantage of these amazing opportunities to refinance my house to a lower interest rate and create more revenue for myself, because I get laid off every year at my job, and I live very kind of uncertain in a lot of ways. And that would just be one area that would help compensate for my loss of salary as we take salary cuts. I'm thankful to be employed, I'm not complaining. But is there something that can be done in terms of helping generally qualified homeowners take advantage of refinancing our interest rates on our home loans to a lower interest rate so that we can have greater cash flow to stimulate the economy right here in Elk Grove?
That's a general question that goes to all sorts of scenarios. We have, in the past, had some people come to us who had some difficulties and believed that they qualified for certain programs that the government had established or that the banks had promised that they would participate in. And while I don't think should be the purpose of my office to tell them you must do this, we have said to them, if people qualify under these circumstances, which they appear to under these conditions, will you please look at it? And we've had some success, including some people in this community. If you're talking about another kind of mandatory program by the federal government,
I don't think I was thinking in terms of a mandatory program by the federal government. I think I'd spoken to a lender once who had suggested that the possibility of maybe at that time the stimulus thing was going on. It was a couple of years ago, and they thought, wouldn't it be a great use of stimulus money, for example, would be to take well-qualified, productive people who aren't in crisis and not subsidize, but I guess change the rules or make allowances in the rules so that those folks could, because all of our property values are so ridiculously under these days. I mean, I don't know anybody who has any equity left in their home. Well, thank you, good for you. I mean, really, I'm so glad to hear that. I'm not being sarcastic, but almost everybody I know is, we're all just underwater by, almost 50%. And so we didn't do anything. We're maintaining our property and paying our mortgages and things like that. So they just thought, I think there was like PMI insurance or something like that, that they thought that would be a good investment, is to invest in well-qualified homeowners who our values have been pulled out from under us at no fault of our own, but because of the sagging economy and the crash in the housing market.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a very difficult situation, to be honest with you. We tried a couple of programs to help those people who were in crisis. Those programs, frankly, haven't worked. In fact, they've been great failures, and there's been a general consensus that they ought not to be completed. There is no money left in the pipeline, well, very little money left in the pipeline from the stimulus program. Frankly, I don't think you would get a majority in the Congress to vote for reauthorization of it, and frankly, I think that's correct. We got into this mess because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were under tremendous pressure to extend government-backed mortgages to people who under other circumstances wouldn't qualify for it. And it was the federal government distorting the marketplace. Now, well, you can say no, or you can say whatever you want, but my opinion is, yeah, it is my opinion. I think it happens to be backed up by fact. 5 years ago, I was one of the few members of Congress who warned that we were headed to a real problem with respect to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And we were told by people such as Barney Frank, Maxine Waters, that we were alarmists. We didn't have to worry about it, that we wouldn't have any problem with it. I could never understand how you could take 10 or 100 mortgages that were troubled mortgages, wrap them together, and call it a securitized instrument, and all of a sudden it's a good investment. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, but that's what we did. Because frankly, I'm talking about the government, were always sympathetic to the idea that everybody should have the possibility of buying a house. The fact of the matter is, it did distort the market. The fact of the matter is, it did destroy Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in terms of what they were supposed to be doing. And it did impact all of us in terms of our housing. And it did impact all of us in terms of the financial system, and it did end up affecting the rest of the world. So at some point in time, I think we have to realize that we may have created some of these problems. So I think we would be very, very careful about doing another program based on the fact that we want to somehow bring people out from under the difficulty that now is imposed on them by virtue of the fact that the property values have sunk. The question is, when are they going to hit bottom, and when are they going to start going up again? And what we have done with our government programs has probably been to continue or exacerbate that drop. And for good reason. We were trying to help people. I guess my answer is, I don't see a program that would be able to answer your question that way without jeopardizing the ultimate recovery of the market so that actually values could start up again. I really don't.
Just curious.
Yes, sir. No, thank God for the young interns. They run all the way up to the front here for you. All the way to the front.
Has there been any financial analysis made that would indicate where we would be if we totally abolished the income tax and went to a sales tax test? In other words, add another percent just like the state does to the local, to whoever is taxing anything that we buy.
The question is, has there been any analysis done on if we eliminated the income tax instead of substituted a national sales tax or consumption-based tax? I think, if I'm not mistaken, the economist Art Laffer has done some work on that. And you might want to, I think he's got a website, Art Laffer, L-A-F-F-E-R, where you might be able to see some of that. He's talked about how we could explode the economy if we had an absolutely fundamental shift in the way that we tax. Now, people will say, wait a second,